This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Right, everyone, one of my favourite guests ever. He's back again, formerly known as Barry Hearn, but now Sir Barry Hearn OBE. How's everything?
Well, it's not Sir yet, but it's OBE, so I'll take that as a compliment, and I'm delighted and looking forward to my trip to Buckingham Palace, my friend.
That's what I was going to ask you. Are you going to actually go visit the Queen, or are they going to do it by Skype?
Listen, I'm old school, patriotic British, love the monarchy. I mean, you see, I'm going to miss out on the trip to Buckingham Palace with the old lady. Not in a million years, mate. I can't wait for it. But in these COVID times, I think I'm going to have to wait some time. But no, I'm chuffed to bits. Listen, it's a great honour from where I am. Absolutely delighted, and I'm really looking forward to going to get the medal at the Palace, mate. I mean, it doesn't happen. Well, it's never happened before in my life, and I'm going to make sure I enjoy every moment.
Well, it's well deserved, Barry. Well deserved.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's a great honour.
So, now being OBE, does that mean that you're going to have your tax bracket lowered now? What does that mean?
No, they don't do that for you. I think the Chancellor of the Exchequer's got other ideas on that. We're all in so much trouble with this COVID epidemic, and the financial implications are going to be felt for a long time in this country. And, I'm afraid it's just something we've got to, buckle down and get ready for and get back to normality as soon as we can, because this pandemic has killed the country so badly. But please God, the vaccinations seem to be going okay, and hopefully we can see a light at the end of the tunnel and get back to live crowds and normality in our life. It would be brilliant.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, as far as 2020 is concerned, you've had a bit of a bizarre one, haven't you? The COVID broke, and then you had an interview with me. The very next day, you had a heart attack, a minor one, of course. Then you contracted COVID yourself, and then you got an OBE. It was a very interesting 2020.
I mean, it's been a fascinatingly interesting year. I mean, obviously, look, we've got to put it into some sort of perspective here. Tens of thousands of people have died. Hundreds of thousands of people have been infected. Having had it myself, I've had a taste of what it was like. It wasn't pleasant, but there was a lot less fortunate people than me out there. And, every death is a tragedy for a family. So, you can feel for those people, and you also feel grateful that, I had a few hiccups during the year, but I'm still here talking to you. So while your podcast survives and I survive, we're both happy people.
Absolutely. And congratulations to Frank Warren for beating it as well.
Yeah, well, good old Frank. He's a survivor of the old school. You've got to take your hat off to him. I'm pleased he's hopefully back full recovery, because it's not nice. People talk a load of rubbish about his COVID. It's not just another flu. This is a serious illness, and it's debilitating. But as I say, there's levels of debilitation. It's also a very good answer to try and keep yourself in some sort of shape and watch your lifestyle, because you develop more immunity to things like that. I mean, I've survived 2 heart attacks. I'm sure if I didn't lead a fairly vigorous physical regime in my life, I may not have done. You just don't know. So there's messages out there that all of us have got to make the most of what we've got and do the best we can in everything we do, lead the right life, and then, please God, we survive things that others don't, and we make the most of our life.
Absolutely agree with you. And by the way, congratulations on your Matchroom ITV deal.
Yeah, I mean, business has been surprisingly good. I mean, obviously we've suffered. We're not having live crowds, and that's been financially quite expensive. But we're a solid business with good TV contracts around the world, and we run a very prudent business, so we always have enough reserves to be able to get through pandemics like this. And a lot of people don't have those reserves, and I can imagine our life is so difficult for them. But we've worked very hard for 45 years to establish ourselves in the sports business. We're in a position where we're quite creative as well. We can come up with ideas. We've done hundreds of events behind closed doors during the pandemic, which has supplied our broadcasters with great programming, whether it's snooker, darts, boxing, in my garden, etc. The team around me have done an absolutely blinding job in getting sport, live sport, out to people via television and various digital applications, and I think that's sort of, in a way, put a little bit of light in the world. You know, we all love our sport, we miss it, and there's enough things we miss at the moment. We don't want to miss everything. So I'm delighted with the team's effort. What they've produced has been tremendous, and they've been rewarded by tremendous viewing figures, obviously, around the world, because there's an absence of a lot of sports who've just not been in the position to carry on promoting or developing sport and talent. That we've been very lucky to be in that position, and we've made the most of it.
Oh yeah. Has your garden recovered from the fight camp?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it now. The grass is really good, you know, so I don't know when Eddie's going to do another one, but you know, in him, it won't be very long, because it was a huge success, and it was fascinating to see it happen. And I had the best view of boxing I think I've ever had from my office window. But you know, that was a good example of creativity coming in when you had to be creative. You know, when you get pandemics like this, a lot of sport have just, they haven't had the finance to be able to do it, or they've put their head in the sand and said, wake me up when it's all over. We've looked at it and said, we're promoters. That's what we were born to do, and we're going to carry on promoting, and we're not going to reduce our prize money on the darts or the snooker, because we can still produce excellent programs that are sold to television stations around the world, and it's not making as much money as it used to, but hey, listen, in these days, any profit is a profit, and we've been grateful that we've been given the chance by our broadcasters to continue producing top quality sport. You know, the World Darts Championships on Sky was a great example of an event that normally thrives on the crowd, but we actually got away with it quite well, and the viewing figures were bigger than last year. So, ticking the box, the players all got paid, they had a great time, the fans enjoyed it, and hopefully we found a few new fans as well, because people need to, you know, they need a distraction from some of the problems that are out there, and live sport gives you that distraction, and it's generally better for the mental health of the country to have something to look forward to. I've been inundated with emails and texts saying, thanks for keeping it going, because, you know, I'm sitting at home, it's really depressing, and you've provided a light for us, and that light is important, because that's, as I say, that's what Matchroom does. That's what the teams here do. They thrive on producing live sport to entertain people.
Well, that's something that you've always done. I mean, as a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, what I remember was the sport from you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been around a long time. I'm getting old, but fortunately, I've created a business which has been built on the success of a few of my ideas, and then taken to another level by a group of really fabulous, young, energetic people. You know, Eddie's a great example of a kid that could have been just a rich kid that didn't particularly have a great work ethic. Well, his work ethic is as good as mine, and I always thought that was unbeatable. But I've got a number of people, you know, Matt Porter in the darts, I mean, Steve Dawson, my right-hand man, all my World Snooker team, the PDC teams, the multi-sport with Emily Fraser. You know, they've all got this amazing work ethic and passion for the sport they do. I think that comes across on TV. The fact that we refuse to give up and just say, oh, you know, we've got enough money, we can just go home for a year and see you later. That was an option, but not for us. It's not an option, because sport is our life, and, you know, that's what, as I say, that's what we were born to do.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned about like Eddie being like the rich kid who's obviously got that motivation, because I do hear it a lot that Eddie's only done this because of, you know, you and this, that and the other. But my argument is always, but anybody can be given the keys, but you can't always unlock the door.
No, I mean, I think the phrase is, you know, you can only play the hand you're dealt. It's not his fault. He was born to a fairly wealthy father. But what is to his credit is he's taken that and then put his own handwriting on it and his own little mixture of passion and skill sets, and he's developed the business bigger than it was before. And that speaks volumes for him as a person. Obviously, as a dad, I'm very proud of both my children. They've both got a tremendous work ethic. Katie on the television side, Eddie on the promotional side, and the boxing in particular. But he's having more and more of an influence on other areas of our business, because he's a good operator. And, you know, I'm not saying that as his dad, You know, I value people on what they do, how they perform, and what they deliver. And Eddie's ticked a lot of boxes because he's probably better than me in some ways, but I would never tell him that.
No, of course not. Well, I remember a while ago that Eddie, he was the son of Barry Hearn. Is it now flipped yet that you're the father of Eddie?
Totally. I mean, I hear people when I walk into a boxing arena to watch a fight, oh, there's Eddie Hearn's dad. They don't shout Eddie Hearn, you're Barry Hearn's son anymore, because I think he's proved himself in that, you know, very discerning marketplace. People recognise that, you know, this kid's good. It doesn't matter who your dad is, does it? I mean, it's nice. All parents want to give their kids a lift, and all parents want to do the best they can. And most parents want their kids to be better than them. You know, there's no ego involved in our family. It's about results. And we're playing a game to be successful, and we're playing a game to win. And, you know, Eddie has inherited through my DNA that spirit, but he's added his own special mixture as well, which has made him so successful. And I couldn't be happier. I mean, I'm not going to go on forever. You know, I'm 73 in June. I still love my work, don't get me wrong, but the world is changing, you know, the way that people are consuming their sport, the way they're looking at more digital applications than basic TV coverage. Social media has changed, and young people can absorb that knowledge far quicker than some old geezer like me, you know. I'm trying my best to stay up to date, but it's not easy because we're in a changing world, and we have to change with it. And I think the pandemic has shown that Matchroom as a company can change and adapt to meet the most difficult challenges, and they've done that as we always do, head on, stand in your own ground, refusing to accept defeat, and that it's been paid back for. You know, we've been blessed with a business that has survived this pandemic and looks to the future. I think we come out of it stronger than we went into it, which is a huge compliment to Eddie and the teams here.
Would it be hard to say to your two kids, right, that's it, I've had enough now, here's the keys?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I'm looking at that process as we speak, not just my two kids, but the senior employees at Matchroom. I mean, we have offices all over the world now. We have some very good, strong people in different regions. We're involved in 12 sports, and who knows, that may be 13, 14, 15. We're looking to expand in a difficult market, which is a hell of a statement, because most people are looking to survive in a difficult market.
Right.
So for me to trust them as I do to take this company to the next level is an easy decision for me. And I think over the next few months and the remainder of this year, that period will eventually come where I am saying more to them. There's certain things I can still do quite well, but from an operational sense, I think they're becoming better operators than me. And it's important to never, you know, you can kid other people, but you mustn't kid yourself, you know. Now look in the mirror and say, okay, you know, you've still got a role to play, but it's going to be a different type of role because these people are better in today's market than you are. And the man that says that to himself in the mirror is a stronger character than someone who thinks they can carry on forever.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of the youth, I see that, was he 20 years old, that Chinese player beat John Higgins?
Unbelievable, yeah, young Bingtao.
Yeah.
What a great performance and what a great result for snooker as well. I mean, all credit to John Higgins, who's unbelievably competitive considering the years he's been in the game. But a 20-year-old comes along and wins the Masters. That takes some doing. I mean, that's a class performance, and the way he played, the way he handled the atmosphere, and the importance of that result to him and the sport in China. The viewing figures over there were colossal, as you'd imagine, and I think we saw a new star being born, and he's going to be there or thereabouts for some time to come. He's 20 years old. I mean, that is a phenomenal performance. I mean, we talk about the class of 92 in snooker with Mark Williams, Ronnie O'Sullivan, John Higgins. They're still up there at the top of the game. And for a 20-year-old to compete with that experience and come through such a difficult match as a winner, you know, speaks volumes for where his career is going.
No, I totally agree with you. Well, China's a massive market. Is there still plans for you guys to move boxing over to China as well?
Well, we're looking at, but I mean, when it comes to boxing, we're not just looking at China, we're looking at the world, you know. I think Eddie's on a mission to dominate as much as he can.
Yeah.
He's, he's an aggressive marketeer. We have a rollout system where we started in Italy and we started in Spain. Clearly, we have a big operation in America, but there's a bigger market. I think Eddie's looking for Matchroom Boxing to evolve as the global dominant force over the next 12 to 24 months with shows all over the world. That's very exciting. It's a massive project, but we have the finance and the ability to do it. We have the right partners in place to do it. And I think he will he will benefit boxing as well by doing competitive, entertaining fights, but not just domestic. It's going to be more, we're going to have a much more global appeal over the next 12 to 24 months.
Well, the first time I ever met Eddie, this was before anybody had even heard of DAZN, and I said to him, so when are we going to see a Matchroom Global? And he just smiled at me and winked, and here we are. It's looking that way, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think he saw the story very early doors. Is, you know, you can be a shop on the corner or you can be Sainsbury's, you know. I mean, it's all about, you're only limited by your own imagination. Mm-hmm. Eddie has no limits on his. He has the desire to be the dominant factor in sport, in the sport of boxing and generally in sport generally. I think he adds an awful lot of social media presence, which is so important to reach a new audience. The youngsters out there don't necessarily watch TV anymore. They watch on their iPad, they watch on their mobile, you know, they follow it on their smart TVs perhaps. But there is a brave new world out there. And what we do know is if we do it right, we know there's an audience for it. I mean, you've only got to look at the job we've done on darts globally in the last 10 years. Has taken a pub game into a major global force, and with it has come a huge increase of prize money up from £500,000 to 15 million and going up all the time. And the exciting thing is, I don't think we've even started. You know, there's a whole world out there, and we sometimes we get a little bit parochial in our vision. We look at, you know, we're the number one in England. England is 65 million people. There's 6 billion people in the world, you know. So there's a hell of a job to be done, and it's not going to be easy, but with the right investment, with the right amount of passion and the right amount of ability, I think Matchroom as a brand can expand into whatever it wants to, because it has management that understand the requirements of today's society.
No, definitely. Oh, actually, did you get any reply from the sports ministers and that in regards to no funding for the amateur boxing?
No, the line went very quiet, didn't it? You know, I mean, I think there is, you know, look, there's lots of sports need help, and what we were saying with boxing is don't forget us. And the trouble with boxing is at the top end, there's a huge amount of money being earned by fighters and promoters. But it has to, like all systems, it has to filter down to some extent to grassroots. We do our best, but government assistance would be very welcome because of the role that boxing plays in the community, which is sometimes so overlooked, you know. But people that come from working class areas understand the role of that type of sports facility, and it is grassroots, and it does actually save lives and actually creates opportunity for people to change their lives. So hopefully we've made enough noise for them to think about it, and hopefully at some stage there will be some assistance coming.
Well, hopefully. So a couple of days ago, no, maybe a week ago now, Eddie said 90%, Bob said 95%, Frank said yesterday 100% sure that Joshua Fury happens next. What's your thoughts on that?
Look, I mean, I'm not involved in the boxing so directly because, you know, Eddie runs the show and calls the shots. Yeah. He tells me both fighters have got a deal, which they're happy with. And there is now the next stage of that problem is to find the right site somewhere in the world. At the moment, I think everybody's 100% committed to this fight happening. And now we have to make sure that our partners globally are ready to make the same commitment, because boxing is a money business. This is a huge fight. The fighters deserve to earn a huge amount of money for what is arguably one of the biggest heavyweight title fights of all time.
Yeah.
But having the fighters agree to, and the fighters and their advisors agree to the deal is a major step forward. There's still some way to go. People will always have 95%, 100%. You know, I take no notice of that. When I hear the announcement of the venue, the date, then I will believe that the fight is definitely made. And until then, it's not made.
Okay, so to your knowledge, it's pretty much just site and date then?
Yep. I think everything else, from TV partners to fighters to the small nitty-gritties of the deal, I think the boys are committed and they really want this fight, both of them, and it's going to be a hell of a fight. But as I say, when you're planning logistics, words are easy to come out with.
Yeah.
There has to be substance, because you turn around, what did Frank say? It's 100% done. So you say, well, where's it going to be, Frank? If he doesn't answer with a sigh, it's not 100% done, is it?
That's true. That is true. Well, I did hear about, I think, is it Dubai? Is that like the favourite at the minute? Or at least one of them?
No, I mean, there's sites in the Middle East. I mean, just about everybody wants it, but it's a question of our role and our responsibility. Our responsibility is to the fighters, who are both risking their lives getting in a ring on what is a massive occasion. We have to maximise their revenue. That's our job. It's very simple. We maximise it through TV deals. We maximise it through site fees, overseas syndication, sponsorships. There's a lot to it. But we don't stop. We're 24/7 making sure that our client, Anthony Joshua, is rewarded as much as he possibly can be for a fight of this stature. And that's our job now, to go out and make sure that we can come up with those numbers. You know, it's all very well sitting in an office having an opinion of what happens. There's a big difference between making it happen.
Sure. Is the priority undisputed? Are you confident that it will be for undisputed?
I don't know. I mean, we'd all want it to be for the undisputed, but boxing is a funny business. These governing bodies all think they don't seem to know about COVID or boxers. They want paying for what I don't know sometimes. I understand the legitimacy and the history of boxing. But, it doesn't come at any price. Everyone's got to be sensible. And if they're sensible, there's not a problem. If they start getting greedy, there's a big problem. If they get super greedy, it's not for unified. Frankly, this fight would not be 1 penny less in value if there was no belts attached to it. That's the level of interest in this fight. So people have got to understand the most important people are Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. And in effect, nothing else really matters.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure you guys will put on a great undercard. I did hear Matchroom versus Top Rank and Queensbury.
I don't know.
That's what Bob said anyway.
If you've got fighters that you want to get out and you want to get, then I can understand you pushing that. The fact is, it's not really like that, is it?
Yeah.
It's the fights, the undercard, the cost of the undercard will all be approved by Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, because effectively they're paying for it. So it's not a question of doing anyone a favour or getting fighters out or inventing Top Rank versus Matchroom. I mean, that's fine if the fights are the right fights and if they're at the right money.
Yeah.
But we're not in this business to make friends and do people favours. We're in this business to maximise the revenue for the mainline fighters that are making this historic occasion happen. And that's my only priority. And I'm sure Eddie feels exactly the same. I'm not turning down the idea of that. There may well be some great fights in there, as long as everybody's sensible and as long as it's approved by Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, because they're the governors. We work for them. They don't work for us.
Absolutely. So are there any other kind of sports that you're interested in dipping your toes in? You mentioned earlier that they might go from 12 to 14 or...
There's a number of sports out there. I mean, these are difficult times to to start investing in something new. We've got a long way to go on the existing sports we're already promoting. I mean, darts is becoming a global phenomenon, but there's a long way to go before it becomes as big as golf, for example. And why shouldn't it if it gets the numbers? Snooker has got a huge amount to go, whether it's in the Middle East or whether it's more in China. There's a lot of potential. New sports that we're always looking at, whether it's netball, basketball, whether it's squash, there's a huge amount of product out there. But what we always take our time before we invest in anything, because we like to do the job properly and we like to know that we can do it differently than other people, and that takes some time. But we are at the moment feeling quite aggressive in expanding our business, because we've shown that we can survive a pandemic and come out smiling, and we're ready for the next chapter. And the exciting thing about being in the sports business is you never know for sure. I mean, Eddie's looking, does he go into music? Does he go into football? The world's our oyster. As I say, there's no limits on what we could do. As long as we can make a contribution to the sport and it's a worthwhile business exercise, then we look at almost anything. But we're not quick movers. We move when the time is right.
And all about your book. Last time I spoke to you, you were going through some bits. Any update in your book?
I enjoyed reading Eddie's book. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
He stole most of my best lines. But it's, as I say, as I start to slow down, that's an inevitable. It's 90% there, so I'm still looking at it. This is a life story, so it's got to be right, it's got to be accurate, it's got to be interesting. And it takes time to put 45 years of work down on paper. But I'm getting there, and when it comes out, I think I'll be proud of it. That's all I want. It's a statement and a way forward of what's been a fabulous journey, and I'd love to share that story with a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Barry, I appreciate your time today.
Always a pleasure, my friend. You keep healthy and keep well. Keep spreading the gospel and look after yourself.
Andrew, take care.
Cheers, mate.